Okay. Are we live? Did we do it? I think I hit the button this time. Okay. Hello. Hello, favorite mother. You didn't hear it before because I didn't hit the go live button, but I said, hello, favorite mother of mine. Yes. And that I like that you're calling yourself out now as opposed to me having to call you out. Also, I did a really good, like, hi, my name is Tracy Lenz. I'm a petroleum engineer, blah, blah, blah. And no one, it wasn't even recorded. Wasn't even recorded because there's like 8 buttons I have to hit to go live, which I want that to be the case so I don't accidentally go live. But then we have today. So, welcome. We are letting people roll in. Let's see. Favorite mother, can you let me know if things are working okay since we have a little time while people realize that I'm actually doing the live again? Oh, hi, Mary. Okay, I'm going to take it as things are working. And we're going to roll now that we have all the most important people in the room. Let me test if my little PowerPoint thing is working like it should. It does work. Okay, good. Just checking. We won't quite get to that yet, but thank you, Mom. All right. Now that I know it's recording, I'm going to officially intro the video and say, hi, my name is Tracy Lenz. I'm a petroleum engineer. I'm the owner of Pecan Tree. We are an engineering firm who does appraisals of all assets, all sizes, big, small, fractional, ginormous. And we do formal appraisals, and we have an online DIY app. So if you want to get Zilla's estimates or if you need something for tax purposes, we got you covered. We are doing our weekly live Q&A. So welcome. If you are here for the first time, thank you for joining us. If you are watching this on the replay, feel free to email the question in for next time. It's Tuesdays at noon Central. So we will just be doing this every week, unless there's like a massive conference where we couldn't fit it in like last week. And any question at all, as long as you feel comfortable with putting it online. If you want to make it anonymous, you can email it and take out the names. Or if it's just involved and you just aren't sure how to fit that in the little tiny chat window, feel free to email that. You can either email that to kelly@pecantriog.com, which is on the screen there, or you can email it to me. So tracy@pecantriog.com. Just let me know in the chat that you sent the email so that I know to look for it. I have my little chat open with Kelly in case something does come through that direction. And let's see. We will start with, I have some quick news. So it's nothing major, just updates. And like I said, if you have questions, go ahead and start popping them in the chat and we'll hit them as we get to them. But I know that it's kind of a weird time of day. No, I mean, every time of day is a weird time of day to do mineral, oil, and gas Q&A. But hello, Sam. Can you cover? Okay, let's see. Where is my? Darn, that was the one thing I didn't check. I have this little tool in my thing that I'm looking at that lets me make the chat like pop up on the screen. Aha, I found it. Okay. Oh, the nutshell book. Yeah. So, okay. It looks like now that I just now popped up the Chat Ninja thingy, I can't make Sam's question come up on the screen, but it's nice and big. Wait, no, y'all are reversed from me, so here. Can you cover the best way of estimating future oil production of a well? Yeah, so I'll cover that in a minute. And Edwin, let's see yours. You hit it right when I got it, so I could do this. Wait, it's like reverse for me. I have to like switch my left and right. I can do this for yours. That nutshell book. Yeah, I will actually go ahead. Hi, Laurie. Thank you for joining us. If anyone on my team is watching and they're able to grab the Oil and Gas in a Nutshell Amazon link, if y'all have seen that one and know which one I'm talking about, if y'all could, let's see. I think Ryan, Whitney, and Kelly are all able to post links, but I can also post a link. So, because I forgot after the last time. Sorry, I'm still laughing at my husband over something that happened just now. But okay, let's. I was debating if I should just go grab the link right now, but I'll based on who I see on. I don't think any of my team is listening right now, so I'll grab it at the end. I'll try to remember to do that at the end of the stream. Okay. Now I forgot what you were referring to on That Would Be Good, but I'm just gonna roll into the news, the little updates, things that we've been up to. I'm gonna switch up to there. So we had our conference. So NARO National, or NARO Texas. So NARO is the National Association of Royalty Owners. It is I really enjoy the group of people that they pull together. I enjoy the speakers. I enjoy the mission that they're on. So they represent royalty owners primarily as education, but also in legislation. So when it comes to as an example, at one point there was a fee if you wanted to receive a paper statement and paper check. The operators tried to charge a fee to do that, even if there wasn't another way to do that. So now that's not allowed. Those type of things. That's what NARO allows. They have different arms of it that allows for lobbying, and then all other arms of it that allows for education. They have a mineral management course. They have a certified mineral management program, which I started going down that route of getting my certification, ran out of time in the day. But yeah, it's good. So this is our group here. So from left to right, we have Becca Andrew, me, and then Whitney Hornack, and then Jason Hooten. These were the folks that were there, and it's the best people ever. Also on our team is Kelly Nall, who was out of town, so she couldn't make it. And then we have another intern in Calgary. So that's our full team. This is our first year that we had signs. So those signs on the left and the right of us. Oh, thanks, Mary. Sam's comment on estimating future oil production. Thank you for the context there. I missed that completely. So Becca, me and Whitney are all petroleum engineers, and really the core of the technical side of this thing. And Jason is developer, and that's my brother. Also, that's Alice's other son, or I almost said sibling, not sibling, child. So, and then I also have another picture. I just thought I wanted to share. I was, it was the first conference that I felt like it wasn't just me with my business cards there. It was like our company was being represented, and represented to the way that we were trying to actually get it represented. So I'm just showing off for a second. We also, here's the three of us on the second day where I was looking a little more, tired because I was. But Whitney and Becca, always superstars. Okay. And so I did present, so I wanted to share my Tracy's Magic Rule of 5. So my topic that I presented on was, technically it was when you need a mineral valuation, but what we covered was how to value all the different things and when those things need values, and then that in turn tells you when you need a mineral valuation. And so the multiple issue is, so people like to use multiples of production. So let's say last month you got a check for $100. A lot of mineral buyers will try to say, oh, we're going to pay you 36 months pay. So $100 times 36, that's how much we'll pay you for your interest and get it off your hands for the low price of 36 multiple or a 60 multiple or a 48 multiple or a 5-year multiple. Like, everyone kind of has their favorite and their target, and it's based usually where they are and what type of properties they're targeting. So I wanted to there are a lot of times where that works, but I wanted to put it in context as to when it does and when it doesn't. So to try to, have the easy to remember thing, I have my Tracy's magic rule of 5, because magic things are easier to remember than non-magic things. So wells that have been producing at least 5 years, that's the first 5, can be typically valued with 5 times the annual royalty check. So an annual royalty check, like your 1099 that you receive at the end of the year saying, here's what you got paid from this operator. That's your annual income, for example. You could just take that number times 5. You can get definitely more advanced with this. But this is only true if it's produced within the last 5 months. So if this is a 1099 from 1982, and that's the last time I heard from this person, it doesn't apply anymore. Like, sorry, it's you have to do something else. And then this only also applies, like, you should only use this if there's been no wells drilled within 5 miles of that well, of that property in the last 5 years. So 5 miles, 5 years, that's roughly the time frame that we're looking at for activity happening in the area. That's the proxy of what we're looking at. So it's saying if there's nothing drilled within the last 5 years within that radius, and there's probably not other stuff going on, there definitely could be. And I can think of areas where this would not be the case, but more likely than not, if these things, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, hey, look at that. 5 times, so you have to think of the number 5, all work, then I think a multiple probably is something you could do. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, that's when you would not want to do it. And if there was one thing that anyone took away from my talk, this would hopefully be it. So I wanted to share that with this group, since y'all are the advanced learners taking mineral knowledge 102 at least. And then I thought I would hit oil prices just month over month, what they've been doing, just because it's kind of fun. I think it's fun to play along and see what they're up to. So green is oil, red is gas. So this is West Texas Intermediate. Thank you for the context, Whitney. Yes, before we go off of this one, I'll switch back to the other slide. Throw Whitney's context in. Hi, Whitney. Welcome to the chat. Love this rule. If you're getting offers, it's worth a second look to understand the upside potential. Yes, I do agree. Honestly, before any transaction, I think I'm a little biased on this, but I think, you can check this type of stuff for $50 on our website. So I think it's definitely worth it if you're selling anything more than $1,000 worth of property. And even if it's something less than $1,000 of property, you don't know that it's only $1,000 of property. Anyway, I could go on my soapbox on this forever, so I'll just... Hey, Fred, you're not late at all. You are right on time. Did you cover the conference? Glad to see you back this week. Yeah, we tried to fit in a live stream when everyone was in town last week, but there's just too much going on. We were all exhausted, so they were off the hook. We briefly covered it, so we hit just to prove that you're not late. We let's see. There we go. There's proof that we were at the conference, and our brand new signs, which and our flyers that we worked so hard on. So yeah, I just covered the magic rule of 5. So you didn't miss much. Yeah, just looking at oil prices real quick, just checking in. They are up a little bit. Brent is up more than WTI because there's more tariff news incoming that is just affecting things. And I try to iterate that short-term pricing isn't going to affect your sorry, I get distracted by the chat and I love it. I was going to put a plug in for your pecan estimating system too. Thank you, Fred. Yes. I'll always take a plug for our pecan estimating system. Okay. Yeah. Back on pricing, I wanted to reiterate, like the little wiggles in pricing aren't necessarily going to change your mineral values that much. It's more the long-term, like the big changes. This is why we have the next 5 years included on this price forecast month over month, because see how gas, so if the dashed line is what it was a month ago and the solid line is what it is now, and the red ones are the gas prices at Henry Hub, which is a place in southern Louisiana. So most likely any gas that you're interested in is not being sold at southern Louisiana. It's being sold somewhere else in the country. So there is a difference of what that's being priced at. But in general, this is a basis. Over the long term, it kind of converges back to the same approximate estimate, and it's just short-term wiggles, where that is a relatively significant difference. $3 versus what's it, like $3.30, but it comes back to where the long term is about looking the same. When the long term outlook starts looking different significantly, that's when we really start seeing value changes, or when the short term is significantly different also. So if a war pops up, if a virus takes over the world, if a country goes crazy, the things that can really swing things quickly, if that dips the price or jumps the price, yeah, that short term can affect it. But we also need to look at the long term. So I don't want anyone to put too close of eyes. Like, you don't need to be checking daily what Bloomberg says oil prices are, but just keep tabs on it. I think it's interesting, if nothing else. And then from the conference, I did want to hit, I feel like it's my responsibility to pass this type of stuff along. So I did want to pass along the 3 bills. So it was the Texas National Association of Royalty Owners, Texas convention. So they were focused on Texas bills. So I did want to pass along the 3 bills that are currently on, honestly, I should know the exact stage that they are, but they are not yet passed, but they have been proposed. They're somewhere between A and B, right? And they're wanting us to read them, understand them, and then advocate for them. And the 3, and it kind of also points to the things that have been issues the last couple of years, because those are the things that, we're asking for more rules around. So the first one is the definition of, these are in different order than I thought they were in. Okay, so that first sentence is a little hard to explain, but the second sentence of that first bill is that it's adding lithium, salt, and bromine to the definition of a mineral, a common mineral. A lot of leases are defined in a way where it says that oil, gas, and other minerals, and things that are dissolved in the water, or things that are, not as obviously, they're not like taking a piece of gold out of the ground or something. There's not like a chunk of lithium that's coming out of the ground. It's dissolved in water. It's kind of ambiguous on if it's a mineral or if it's water, because water typically belongs to the surface owner, while minerals typically belong to a different owner, just making it more clear on that. And relating to that specific thing in that first sentence there. The second one is, the notification of when you've been put into suspense. There's been pushback from the operator saying that it's too hard. And our pushback is like, it's not hard. You just come up with a form. We'll help you come up with a form and have some way that people are notified if they're not being paid and why they're not being paid. It seems relatively simple when you say it in those type of terms, but currently that is not the case. If you stop getting paid for any reason, they don't tell you. They don't have to notify you. Now, if the reason that they're not paying you is they can't reach you, right? How are they going to notify you? But there's many other reasons, and they could notify any of those addresses they do have on hand, right? If they don't know which address to send it to. And then the last one, the last one, there's a situation where they can send out a lease, they can send out a ratification, which is basically they want your signature to say that everything's still hunky-dory with the lease and that this is the person who leased the property is getting the person who owns the property to say, yes, we're all good. We're in the clear. You're fine to continue on how you think you should be able to continue on. It's kind of like if you're renting an apartment, having the landlord give you a letter that says you're allowed to continue living here for the next 12 months. It's kind of like that. So, but the ratification, they're requiring people to ratify leases without giving them a copy of the lease. So there's situations where someone who might not have ever seen that lease, yet they're being required to sign a ratification for it. So that'd be like if you went to the friend of your landlord and said, hey, I know you don't know what the lease terms are, but I know that you know this landlord guy. Can you sign off that he's okay with this? And that's basically what's happening. And so it's like, hey, this is only going to happen if I get a copy of the lease to know what I'm ratifying, or else what are we doing here, right? So very logical things when you put it in simple terms. So the thing that I'm wanting to pass along is how to help with that. So if you live in Texas, then this especially applies to you. Call the member of the committee. So the NARO website has the who's on which committee, but also just ask to speak to your representative or any staff in that office and say that you're in favor of those bills. And especially if you have a story that relates to owning minerals and how these are beneficial, how this would help your family, how minerals have helped your family, how it's not just mailbox money that goes to some corporation somewhere, like it's paying for your kids' college. It's whatever it is that, like why this is a thing, because that means a lot. And I'm not from that world, but this is what they tell me. And then thank them for their time and service to mineral owners. So obviously that, kind words go a long way, especially in the South. So this is my passing it along from the conference. Okay. I feel like we should get on the questions now that we're 28 minutes into this. So we will head back to here. And because I can't highlight Sam's comment, I'm going to highlight Mary's reference to Sam's comment. Okay. So Fred says, all three of those bills are great. Thank you for covering those. Yeah, I there's more, obviously, that I think that should be required, but those are great starts. So Sam's comment of estimating oil production. Okay. So it depends on where you are in we'll call it the lifetime of that well. So if it's before the well has started producing, then you're going to have to use a different methodology than if it's the first month it produced versus the first year it produced versus the last tail end. And I do have I have a slide from my presentation that actually would be helpful here. So let me just, since I can think of exactly where it is, I'll pull that up real quick. When you're early on in, ooh, this looks a good one. Okay. Let me copy these slides over. Or actually, I think I can do this. This is dangerous. I didn't test this beforehand. Oh, yep. Okay, this happened. We'll do this one. Okay. Copy this over to, I have one slideshow that I share, and then other slide, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, so this is one, and then there's another one I'm going to grab just really quick. Bear with me. Okay. I don't need design suggestions. Office. Okay. So if we're looking at this here, this is the life cycle of how typical oil and gas is forecasted. And so if we look at the bottom, we have the exploration, delineation, development, early production, and mature production in terms of the stages of production. And then if you look at that big green wedge being, you could think of it as dollars coming out of the ground. So early production is where you get the first check, if we just want to think of it that way from the mineral owner's perspective. And everything before that is before a drop of oil comes out of the ground, and everything after that is you just continue to get more and more data. Along the top is the reserves estimate methods, which is another way of saying estimating future oil production, because reserves is just how much will be produced over time. So that's future oil production. In the very beginning, analogy is the most common way to do it. Now, there's more fancy ways to go about it, and volumetrics is the other commonly used one, but it's more commonly used for reservoirs that are what they call conventional. So if you have 3 wells producing along the Gulf Coast of Texas, it's probably a conventional field. A well that's on a platform in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, probably a conventional field. Alaska, anything that was producing over the last 100 years, but before the last 20. So like if there's a 19 in front of the year, it came online, so 19 anything, it's probably conventional. Volumetrics is where you take the thickness of the expected reservoir, and then you take how much porosity, which is how much room there is within the rock, because rock itself doesn't have oil, but the room in between the rock is what we're looking for. And then you take all these other parameters and you multiply them together to get the volume, and then you have ways of projecting that. So reserves in itself is more just a single volume number rather than a forecast of production, but we'll just use it as a proxy for now without getting too much in the weeds. Analogy is saying, well, this well or this field is very similar to the one that I'm looking at for these many reasons. I'm going to estimate what this field or this well is going to do based on this field, because I know the similarities and I know how to adjust for the differences. So adjusting for the differences is really the key thing to remember to include, because if, just as an example, if over here you have 10,000 foot long wells or 2 mile long wells, and over here you have a 1 mile well or a 5,000 foot well, those are differences that you can still use this analogy method, but you need to account for that. And you need to know how best to account for that. And all of those things are what we're considering when we're doing type curve analogy, type well analogy. There's yet another way of estimating reserves with type curves, which is why people get picky on if you're going to call it a type well versus a type curve. But again, we're just scooting back again. If we just look at the analogy methodology, you take a certain radius of reservoir is similar. You take the wells that are drilled in a similar time and the similar completion, and you look at what the average of what those have done. You adjust for anything you know about the well that you're looking at, and then you apply the average to that well. That's the simplistic way. And then if we look at how these wells produce, the reason that it matters when you are in the stage is you have to know what type of well you're looking at and, how far along it is. So if you only have the first couple points if every one of these dots on these graphs are months of production, if you just had the first 3 dots, you wouldn't have any idea what line to draw through these points, because there's too many different lines that could happen. So that's where the analogy is helpful. But you can calibrate the starting point of that line using those first 3 points. So the combination of the two starts to happen, where we're using both analogy and the production in combination to calibrate the other. And then as you get later in life, then you're able to draw decline curves is what this is called. So this is decline curve analysis. If you heard DCA, or if on our website, for example, if you get one of our Pecan estimate reports, it will say when we're estimating the value for that well, if we're using decline curve analysis or if we're using a multiple of production, and we say DCA. So that's what that stands for, is decline curve analysis, where you're drawing the curve through it, but it's more advanced than just, fitting a line, any line that fits, like doing a regression on which line fits the points the best, because the wells are doing certain things when they go down, when they go up, when the production jumps around, and knowing what's happening in the field or being aware of what could be causing that helps know which points to ignore and which ones not to ignore, because there's a lot of data issues that can happen, a lot of things that can cause production to jump or things that can cause production to go down. And then there's also, do you include the early points in this line that you're drawing? Do you put it on a log scale? Do you, the first one is a log scale, you can draw a straight line through it. The second one is a log scale, you can't draw a straight line through it. Which one do you use when you don't draw a straight line through it? What equation do you use? Because that's another equation. Edwin, you say, is there a program we could use to see that type of info? Well, there's that type of info. Do you mean, which one do you use? So here's my plug. So our Pecan Estimate website and our app has both our recommended multiple. So if you're using a multiple method, it also has our recommended. We don't post the curves, but we post the results of the curves. The program we use internally is called Combo Curve. So it has an expensive license, 5 figures type of license, but that's what we use. And I know it's pretty easy to pick up if you know what you're looking for, but it's definitely one of the higher priced ones. Other ones, Aries which is by Halliburton or Landmark. That one's a common one industry for this. PhD Win has, and I think, I can't remember what technically that company is called, but they're here in Austin. But they have PhD Win version 2 and version 3, which they're a much lower cost option, but it's much harder to pick up. In some respects, I mean, all of these, if you know one aspect of it, then you'll understand the rest of it. And then, you can put this stuff into Excel also. Like theoretically, it's just equations that Excel can handle. And that's what I did for my first 2 years after I started this, maybe a year after I started this company, was I just did it all in Excel until I had the first client that had over, I think she had 150 wells, and I was trying to do each tab having its own forecast and then rolling it all up. And that was pushing it. And then the next client had a PhD win file, and I was like, okay, it's time. And then when we did the app, we wanted something that tied into our Postgres database better. And Combo Curve is it's a cloud software that it just syncs better. And it has features for creating those analogy curves that we were talking about. So those type curve analogies. It has really useful features for figuring those out and documenting it and creating it in the way that I wanted to do it. And the way that I was doing it in my Excel, it lined up really well with how they do it. While PhD Win is more, you bring your results into it to do the economic analysis. And then also a lot of the data providers have a decline curve, like a forecasting option in it. I know that Enverus, Drilling Info, Enverus has, in Prism, I think they've acquired so many, there's been so many like stacked acquisitions that I think Prism was acquired by Drilling Info, which was, acquired by all those things. So I know that they have a forecast tool. I think Well Database has a forecast tool. I think I saw Energy Domain has a forecast tool. The forecast tool itself, like the math isn't the hardest thing in the world. The hard thing is combining it with what the well is doing and knowing how to interpret that. I've seen some of your other questions, so you probably got that part of it. So I'm betting Excel could probably get you most of the way there. That is, so that's what we're doing whenever we do an appraisal. We take each well and we plot it up and put our engineering eyes on all the curves and make a forecast for that well. And then if that well doesn't have enough production information to do that forecast, then we're combining it with the analogy, or we're just flat up using the analogy. So that's what we're doing as engineers, and then we feed all that back into our app in order to feed the program, and then have that all be our circulating, every time we look at one well, it makes the whole thing better. So I feel I usually make things more complicated than people want me to make them. So feel free if there's questions related to this topic. This is probably a good time to put those in. Let me check. I have some chats being sent to me. See if they're related or not related. Okay, not related. Good. Okay. Fred, you say, I've used Well Database and Excel also. Yeah, so we get our data currently from Well Database, and we're looking at layering in additional sources just as, additional ways to, everyone has their own thing that they're doing and that they're good at. Having access to that production data is the first step, and then just having places you can put the equation to it. It does get a little tricky if you're trying to match, say if you're trying to match investor presentations and they say that they're using a certain B factor or they're using a certain equation and they're coming up with a certain EUR or number, then there's nitty gritty to all of this, right? Are you using the secant or the tangent or, all the different varieties of everyone has, it's a simple equation, but there's like 18 different slight tweaks to it that each software uses. So if you're trying to match Aries versus if you're trying to match PhD Win, or if you're looking at EnergyNet, like a auction house listing, and they're showing their curves and you're trying to match their curves, and Excel isn't quite matching it. It's close but not quite. Boy, it's its own little rabbit hole on itself. But if you're looking at it just for these purposes, Excel can get you most of the way there. Thank you, Fred. Your system's way easier, though. I agree. Let's see. I'm seeing if I'm able to pop up our system without it being too... yeah, I'm not really logged into a good... I don't have it set up. I don't want y'all to be sitting here waiting as I go and find the place where we have that. But we have about 200,000, maybe a little more wells that we're feeding through our combo curve system, and then that feedback into our public app. And then anytime that someone has an appraisal or a request for a certain well, we also include that in. Okay. What other questions we got? What other topics we want to hit? The world is y'all's oyster, as I will say. And I think only I say. What else we got? I'm sure there's other stuff. Oh, that's right. I pulled up the, I didn't have a slide to remind myself to look at it, but I did pull it up ahead of time. The topics that were covered at the conference, I thought would be good to just talk through. I couldn't find a nice way to display them, though. Let me see if... Okay. Let's see if this works. Desktop. And I know that that's going to do that, but I'm going to switch this to primary. Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's small, but I think that does it. There. Now it's bigger. Okay. So if I wanted to pull, I just wanted to oh, nope, that didn't. I tried to be fancy and I messed it up. Okay. So in case you're curious, what happens at these conferences, I think the next one that is the Ohio one, early September, and the national one is in Oklahoma City at the end of September. And I will be at that one. I don't think I'm speaking. Someone asked me, and I'm actually not sure. And then I think there's one more this year. But I know that there's a Louisiana conference, an Oklahoma conference. I think those were earlier this year. There's a Appalachia conference, I believe, and a Rockies conference. And I think those already happened also. But there's a whole schedule, just letting you know which ones exist. I didn't get to sit in on a lot of the talks because our booth was just jam-packed and it was amazing. We got to talk to so many great people, got to show off all the great work our team's been doing, but I didn't get to sit in on a lot of talks. So I sat in on a couple that I snuck out for, but I think that the topics themselves kind of give a feel of what is of interest to the industry. So AI in the land industry, Jairus Johnson with Roland AI was there, and he talked. I've demoed Roland AI on one of the past live streams. I have a subscription to it and I like it, but it is AI, so you have to take it. I always equate it to Wikipedia back in the day, where it's a source, but it's not a great source, but it's a good starting point. So if you need tips on where to start, or if you need to what are some ways that land describes this? Can you pull together these 8 different documents into a spreadsheet? It's a good starting point. And I think that I like the direction that Jairus and them are going with Roland. So I still haven't heard his talk, even though I've been at two different conferences where he's talked. Then there was mine, which, like I said, the main takeaway was that rule of five. But I also went into, when you do need a mineral appraisal and you need those other. Oh, you know what? I'm finally making it where I can share my screen. So I bet this would kind of work. Yes. Okay. It's not the prettiest, but we covered what different situations can we use a revenue, look at what the nerds do. Here's some of the parameters that we're covering as we're going through and doing it our way, what different economic methods are useful, which, side note, almost all of them require doing a forecasted production and then figuring out different ways to interpret that forecasted production. And then we have our reserve adjustment factors, like how we're accounting for risk, how we're accounting for timing. This is what I covered in mine. Do different types of interest matter? Overriding royalties. Yeah, that was the basics of mine. Then we have fixed versus floating royalties. That's been a thing that's been growing, and it sounds like it's still a ongoing issue. Pat Long-Weaver, she is. I mean, I've heard her talk on this subject before. I didn't see this specific talk, but we have all the slides, so I was going to go through them. But that's still a thing that I'm seeing as that being an issue. The U-turn wells, those are kind of fun because I had a client who actually had a U-turn well on their property, and that is literally where they're drilling. And instead of just making a straight line, they are drilling and then coming back around and drilling like to where they're making a U in the reservoir. And the first time I saw that actually in the wild, we'll say, was really fun to, I don't know, it's always fun to see new technology being used. And it's not okay. I know that making a U isn't necessarily the most groundbreaking on the surface. Well, okay. That was probably a funny mixture of analogies. Okay, it's not the most groundbreaking thing to think about. Like, oh, we just went in the U direction. When you're already going in an L direction, right? Like, what's the difference? But just the difficulty in turning. Those are cook wells. I've seen them in multiple units. But yeah, there's I've seen. Was it the? You're referring to the cook unit, I believe. Oh, cool. Okay, there is a cook unit where I've seen. They're cool wells. Yes, I agree. Cool. Yeah, no, so the purpose of them is you have all these little areas where you can only fit a 1 mile well, but it's more economic to do a 2 mile well because you only have one surface thing you have to pay for, and if you can fit all the surface facilities and the casing and all the stuff that you have to put in the well going down to the reservoir, then if you can double the amount of reservoir that you're producing for the cost of all that stuff you have to put on the surface, and only have to do one, landowner negotiation, all those things that make it more economic to do longer wells rather than a whole bunch of short wells. We're now running into the issues where there's land that is stuck. Like there's not 2 miles of reservoir to drill. There's like one chunky 1 mile block of reservoir, and then there's more wells. So you can't go all the way 2 miles. So then what do? Do you drill like several 1 mile laterals, or drill a U-turn well, which is, maybe they'll be spelling their name with the next iteration of these things. I know that we've always joked about geologists doing that, or the geosteerers, I should say. Maybe that will actually happen. Okay, so yeah, that's a big thing. I think if you have minerals where they've been priorly, that's not a where they've been stranded in a sense, or low priority, we'll just say, because they couldn't fit a 2 mile or they couldn't fit a longer horizontal. This is really good news for you. Tough Talks Made Easy, Family Operators in the Art of Productive Negotiation. This was by Jimmy Wright, and I heard glowing reviews of his talk and how the summary was that basically everybody needs a therapist and all, I've time and time again, I just see this tear apart families, unfortunately, is if you throw a bunch of money in a topic that people don't understand and it's not one particular person necessarily earning it, it just, things get ugly. And I just talked to so many families this week and in the last couple of years that one suing the other, dad suing brother, sister suing cousin. Like there's usually over someone thinking that someone has an unfair amount of share of this pie that no one expected to get. So yeah, the art of productive negotiation, how to break a lease. I know that I've been asked that question several times, and usually the answer is that you can't, for the ones that I get asked anyway, but there are ways to do it if you're under certain conditions and if you're willing to hire a lawyer. Usually, honestly, unfortunately, that's what it comes to. But there's definitely easier ways to break a lease than others. So yeah, there's talks on that. I have not worked with Luis in myself, so I don't know how good this person is, but it is definitely a popular topic. We heard from a state representative on how things are going, all these bills and stuff in the House. Karen Bogish talked on lithium leasing. She's here in Austin. I refer people to her all the time. I really like. We have a very similar client type, so she does a lot of work for mineral owners in this space. She did an update on lithium leasing, which had some good rules that I hadn't thought of. But basically, her main takeaway, if I were to summarize it, was to wait unless you absolutely have to lease right now, because there's a lot of things that are being established as for good leasing practices when it comes to lithium. And right now, the most common leasing terms are not great ones at all. So that was the main takeaway from that. Division Orders 101. I love Kindle. So she's a good one also. Energy policy. So TIPRO is the Texas Independent Producers and Royalty Owners. It's a very similar organization, but it tends to be more producers of oil and gas more than royalty owners advocating. So they tend to be a little more operations focused and in terms of a society. So Ed Longenecker has been the president of that for a while now. So they're usually more on the policy side of things, but usually more leaning towards the operators. Martha Barnes, who is amazing. Anyone who's coming here from the Mineral Rights Forum, she talked on how to organize your mineral rights, and she gave that talk to, I've heard that talk before, and it's spot on. If you ever have a chance to see it, or if you're ever able to find a copy of it. And then, let's see, Saturday there's a half day chapter report, stacking contracts for renewables. Honestly, I'm not 100% certain. I haven't looked at that slide to know what he was referring to. The Railroad Commission usually has a talk involved that helps how to navigate the Railroad Commission in some form or fashion. Zombie wells, there was a panel discussion. So Wade Caldwell, he is an attorney and focuses mostly on the Permian Basin. Zombie wells are Just as a quick update, zombie wells are wells that are thought to have been plugged or we didn't know about. Maybe they were plugged so incorrectly that they weren't recorded and they were just covered up with grass. And then they come back to life by suddenly leaking or causing some type of issue, usually on the surface because it's usually how people find out about it. Go away, teams. I'm busy. And then concluding remarks. So yeah, zombie wells. There's a group called Commission Shift, which is working on plugging these zombie, just how do we make people more responsible for plugging wells. So that is that was the highlights. And I think that really does summarize, what's been on the minds of people that I get a lot of questions on, at least. So they do a good job of putting it together. Lana Straub is the current Texas president, and she's very passionate about this and a great president for this. So if you're ever in that realm, I highly recommend. Also, the resort, gorgeous. I can't believe they got that rate so low, $199 a night at this place. Oh my God, I'm still just can't believe that, of all things there. Fred, congrats on having over 2,000 subscribers. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Yes, we're at 230 as of, no, sorry. There's zeros in there. 2,030 subscribers. I know it's silly, but I think if I had one of those plaques, my daughter would actually, be more impressed with that than anything else I do in life. So that's really what this is all about. But yes, thank you for that. And I really enjoy sharing the knowledge. Also, I'm starting to get people at conferences who come up who have seen me on YouTube, and it is the coolest thing. I know that other YouTubers talk about this, and I barely even call myself a YouTuber, but it's really fun to have someone come up who's heard and listened to something. To me, I'm just talking to a camera, and I don't get that feedback. So it's fun to actually meet the people who are getting that, who you're actually talking to. Of course, as an introvert, it's also exhausting and scary, but it's, it's really fun. I do really enjoy that side of it. Okay, now I did say I would look up that book. Let me grab that link to that book. I'm going to hop off of screen sharing just because I never know it's going to actually be on my Amazon page. Let's see. Oil and gas in a nutshell. Okay. So there's a new edition of it. Yeah, my cart is showing. So let me get to there. Oil and gas law in a nutshell. Which one's the most recent version? Probably this one. Second. 8th edition. Wow. Really. Okay, I'm gonna pop this link in the chat. I believe I can do that. There it is. Does that work? Which other book would be good? Okay. What topic specifically? On forecasting or just in general, my favorite books, or there's a major delay between when I physically ask the question versus when it gets to you versus you type it in, it gets to me. So I do apologize on that. It's always hard to judge how much of a delay there is. Let me see if while you're doing that, which ones I have back here I like. grabbed a couple of my other ones. So if you're wanting to just know more about leasing, Marcia Brazil, I probably am saying that completely wrong. She has these two books, Lease Analysis, Common Clauses and Uncommon Clauses. And I think I got these on Amazon. But she is a division order analyst and a title analyst. And if you really want to understand what they are most, like what the operator's looking at for these types of lease terms, this was really helpful. And then we have, this is an oldie, but I have gotten a lot of use out of it. And by oldie, it's not actually that old compared to most of the stuff, but this is more of the very technical side of things. Estimation and Classification of Reserves by Chapman Cronquist. There's a lot of technical books on there on how to estimate reserves, but this one's been very practical. So lots of rules of thumb, lots of tables, lots of actual practical knowledge. Like you can tell that he actually has been estimating wells for a long time. I like all the monographs that SPEE puts out. They're up to monograph 5 now that just came out. In terms of how to pass down mineral rights to children, forecasting, law. Yeah, that law book, The Oil and Gas in a Nutshell, really is my favorite for law-based things. Oh, something that you can get. I'll. Which one specifically do you want the link to? Some of these you have to get through the SPE store, which is the Society of Petroleum Engineers. I got a lot of my books through them, and some are through. Let's see. Oh, there was another one that I wanted to. These two also. The NARO puts out this book. It's real friendly sized, called Look Before You Lease. A Layman's Guide to Oil and Gas Leasing by Jim Stafford. And he was one of the founders of NARO. I think when you become a member, they send this as part. I think it's part of your membership. I think I bought it because I just wanted it. But it's a nice little summary. Let's see. The last second to last one you want the link to. So you want the link to this one? I'll try to put links to all the ones that I have in front of me before I put them away. I'll put it in having them out in front of me will remind me to do something because they're still out. So I'll put it in the description. And then the other one from like a legal and contractual side would be the AAPL study guide for, which reminds me of one other one that I really liked. But the AAPL study guide, it goes into a lot of the law side of it. It is a deep dive, but I wish I had it earlier in my I guess, jump into minerals. So like environmental law and regulation, like it has all the things that landmen are supposed to know, right? This is studying for the test if you become an RPL or CPL is what all the stuff you're supposed to know. And then I think it's NALTA. Who is that? That's the lease and title analysts have a book also that all of these, like the study guides for a lot of these organizations, end up being really good technical books, just because I like to go straight to the actual source of the best place, and that ends up being a good reference. And so, um, what's it? I'm trying to think of the exact name of that one. But yeah, it's the Division Order Analysts have a book that they put out also. That I just have a digital version of that one. I don't have the um, physical version of that one. And then Jason's borrowing a couple of my books, so I don't have all the ones. And I just moved to this office, so they're kind of in a different places than I think. Oh, there was another one. What was the other one I liked? I'm not gonna find it now. This is the other one. Okay. Like 20 years ago, I think, almost at this point, I took a course by Richard Seba on economics of worldwide petroleum production, and this ended up being very useful in my career so far. Um, I don't know why specifically, but it ended up being a really good class. And then there's been others. Yeah, everything else is probably way down the rabbit hole that no one here needs to know. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk books and probably too long. So, all right, I will make sure to put the links to all those books that I just mentioned in the comments, and or no, not comments, but like the little like description thingy that you can pop out. And I think that's it. So we'll wrap up today, and I hope to see y'all next week. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, if y'all have questions that you want me to hit next week, feel free to email them to me or email them to Kelly or put them in the comments. I will try. I actually think there were some comments on other videos. I usually try to hit those here also, but I think there were other comments in other videos that I wanted to hit that I didn't quite. Remember to like this video if it's been helpful. Subscribe if you want to be alerted on future videos like this that we put out. And I think there's like a bell thing you can be notified, although who knows if it actually will notify you. But that's a thing. All right. Thanks. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. All right. Thanks, Mary. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, everyone who joined. Thanks, Mom. Love you, Mom. Okay. Bye.